What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Oak Tree Football channel, and welcome to another 2020 college football schedule breakdown and record prediction video. Today, I'm going to be changing it up a little bit, doing something a bit different. I'm going to be doing an FCS school, and I'm going to be doing the most dominant FCS school, actually the most dominant school in the history of college football, the North Dakota State Bison. Like I said, they're one of the best FCS schools, not just currently, but of all time. They've won 8 of the last 9 national championships, which is just insane. They're consistently good. Obviously, they've always won these championships, but they're consistently good even with different coaches, with different players. They've even been good against FBS opponents. A few years ago, they beat Iowa, who was actually the 13th ranked team in the country, which is just fantastic. And they were nearly ranked that year. They just missed the top 25. They've had some good NFL talent as well, like Carson Wentz a few years ago, quarterback Carson Wentz, who was, of course, taken with the second pick by the Philadelphia Eagles. They have a very good stadium, a great atmosphere in the Fargo Dome, and sometimes they even get college game day. And then last year, they had a new coach, and they still managed to go 16-0 and won an FCS national championship. And they were led by quarterback Trey Lance. Lance was a star in his first year. I believe he had somewhere around 2,700 pass yards and 28 touchdowns on the ground. But he also had 1,100 rush yards and 14 touchdowns on the ground, so he was great. And then along with that, he only threw 0 interceptions, which is just unbelievable. He's a fantastic quarterback, definitely the best in FCS, and I expect another good season from him. And it should, in my opinion, be another good season from him and NDSU. The Bison, I think we're going to have a really good year again, so let's get into this prediction. They went 16-0 last year, like I said, and they had the 141st best recruiting class, which obviously is not good by FBS standards, but by FCS standards, I believe it was the 4th ranked recruiting class, if I'm remembering correctly. They started off with a very tough game at Oregon. Even though they did beat Iowa a few years ago, they could still get an upset here, but this is going to be an even tougher one. Oregon this year will be better than Iowa was a few years ago when they were ranked 13. Oregon is just that good. They're a playoff contender. I think they could go to the playoff. Oregon has a lot of weapons on both offense and defense. Fantastic secondary for Oregon. Got some good players on the defensive line. And then the only real problem for them is quarterback. But I think Tyler Show will probably be their quarterback. He'll probably struggle in this game, but I think he will be okay this year. And then they're probably going to hand the ball a lot more to running back C.J. Verdell, who could be very good. But there is something good in this game for NDSU that might give them a chance. It's at Oregon, which is going to be tough. But Oregon is playing Ohio State the next week. So maybe Oregon is looking ahead a bit too much to that Ohio State game, and they just really don't take this game into account that much, and NDSU is able to get the win. I do think that's a possibility, but I just feel like Oregon is too good, and this game being home for them, I think they will win. So I'm going to take Oregon there. Week 2, they're playing Drake. Drake was not all that good last season, and even though they are not terrible, they're just not going to beat NDSU. NDSU's at home. They're just such a good team, and Drake is just not going to be able to win this game here. Week 3, they play North Carolina A&T. North Carolina A&T is a pretty good FCS school. They didn't make the playoffs, but they're one of the better ones that didn't make the playoffs last year, in my opinion. I think they'll be pretty good this year. Maybe they can go to the playoffs. I think maybe they can give NDSU a challenge, maybe a little one, but maybe it can be a bit competitive, but I'm definitely taking NDSU. It's a home game for NDSU. It's a home game for the Bison. So maybe it can be a bit close, but NDSU should be able to get the win fairly easily. Maybe North Carolina A&T can, do something, but it should be the Bison there. Week 4, they play Northern Iowa at Northern Iowa. This is one of their toughest games of the season, in my opinion, because Northern Iowa is the second best team in the Missouri Valley Conference, in my opinion. The best, obviously, is the North Dakota State Bison. They play in the Missouri Valley Conference along with Northern Iowa, who I think is the second best team. They made it to the FCS playoff last year. This is going to be a tough one for the Bison. If they're going to lose one game that's not the Oregon game, this would probably be the one. There are a few other games that'll be tough, and there are some others that they could lose as well, but this seems like a very, very likely loss. I do think that they are better than the Northern Iowa, like I said, This is just going to be a tough one because they're on the road. It could really go either way. I do think that it's a lot more likely North Dakota State wins, and currently I am picking North Dakota State in this one. But Northern Iowa, this is a good chance for them to get an upset. And if NDSU is going to get a loss this season, like I said, other than Oregon, it'll probably be Northern Iowa, maybe a few other teams that I'll talk about in a second, like possibly Illinois State. Illinois State had a pretty good overall record last year, and just like Northern Iowa, they did make it to the playoff. NDSU actually played Illinois State in the playoff, and it was a very defensive game. I believe it finished 9-3, and I don't think there were any touchdowns in that game. I think it was all field goals. It's going to be a tough one for NDSU, but I do think they should be able to win just because they're at home. But this is a pretty tough stretch in my opinion. North Carolina A&T might be able to give them something. I do think NDSU should win pretty comfortably, but North Carolina A&T can maybe give them a tiny challenge. Northern Iowa is going to be tough, and then Illinois State is going to be tough. So that is a tough stretch right there. And then week 6, they play on the road at Indiana State. Indiana State was not great last year, and I don't think they will be that much better this season. Maybe they can put up a challenge against the Bison just because they're the home team, but I do think it should be a fairly easy win for the Bison there. Week 7, this is a tough one. South Dakota State, kind of a rivalry here, North Dakota State and South Dakota State. And it's going to be a tough one. South Dakota State is a very good team, in my opinion. This might be North Dakota State's toughest opponent. Maybe Northern Iowa's tougher, but South Dakota State is a good team nonetheless. This is a good matchup. It's a rivalry game, of course. North Dakota State definitely is the better team, in my opinion, but South Dakota State has beat them in the past, has gotten some big upsets against North Dakota State in the past. It's a huge rivalry. Should be a very interesting game. This is going to be one of the most fun games to watch this season because it's a rivalry game. It can be a pretty close game, so it's going to be a fun one to watch, and it's going to be a very entertaining one for North Dakota State this season. Week 8, they play Youngstown State. This one shouldn't be much of a problem. They weren't all that good last season, and I just don't see the Bison having a problem. This should be an easy win for them. Same with Week 9. They should have no problem again in Week 9. Even though they're on the road, they're playing Missouri State, who I believe only won one game last year. They should have no problem in this one. Week 10, they have a bye week. Week 11, they play North Dakota. North Dakota is an independent FCS school. Maybe they give North Dakota State a bit of a challenge, but North Dakota State's is a better team. They are the home team, and they should be able to get the win here. North Dakota can give them a good challenge, I think, but I think that North Dakota State is definitely the better team, and they should be able to get the win. And then they ended off with a road game at South Dakota. South Dakota wasn't all that good last year, and I just don't think they'll beat North Dakota State. They're just not good enough. So it's a kind of tough schedule for North Dakota State this year. There are a lot of games they could lose, but now, as I always do, I'll go through every game once again. I'll give my prediction for I think we'll win. Week 1 at Oregon. It's a possibility that North Dakota State gets the upset here. I do think it is, but I just don't think they're going to be able to. I'm going to take Oregon. Week 2, Drake. That's the easy one for me. Week 3, North Carolina A&T. I think it can be a bit closer than some people expect, but NDSU will definitely win. Week 4, Northern Iowa. This is a tough one to predict, but I am going to go with North Dakota State at the moment. I just think that North Dakota State is too good. But, like I said, they could 100% lose this game. Week 5, they could also lose against Illinois State, but I'm going to give them the win because they are at home. Could be a loss, but I'm leaning towards it being a win at the moment. Week 6, Indiana State, I think it's a win. 7, South Dakota State, I think it can be close. Should be a very good game, but I'm taking North Dakota State. And then they should have a pretty easy rest of the season, should win out. Maybe they struggle a bit against North or South Dakota, but I have them winning out there to give them a record of 10-1 on the season. It's a very interesting year for North Dakota State. There are a lot of tough games on their schedule. There are a lot of games they could lose. There are probably, at worst, 4 losses. They have that many tough games, and I do not think they'll lose 4 games because they have too much talent for that to be the case. But maybe Trey Lance gets injured because his style of play when he runs the ball, it's not the safest. I think that's safe to say. It's not the safest style of running the ball. So if he gets injured, and then the coaching just isn't good this year, maybe North Dakota State does lose 4 games, but currently have them losing to Oregon. Maybe they could definitely lose to Northern Iowa or Illinois State or South Dakota State. But I feel like they'll probably be 10-1, 11-0, or 9-2, somewhere around that range, in my opinion. If they were to lose 2 games, it would be Northern Iowa and Oregon, in my opinion. But they will probably return to an FCS national championship. I think they will definitely return to the playoff, and they will probably return to the national championship. I think they most likely will win another one. Maybe they can have a bit of a challenge. Maybe someone will beat them there, but I think they should be able to get there. So these are my thoughts on the North Dakota State Bison for this year. What are your guys' thoughts? Tell me in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, and if you're new around here, feel free to subscribe for more daily NFL and college football content. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video.